I have covered a lot of my favourite types of movies on this channel, from slasher horrors like Wrong Turn and the movie that was filmed in my old school, suspenseful movies like The Belko Experiment and the movie that scarred me as a child, Citadel, and of course zombie movies, just to name a few. But there's one type of movie that I am shocked that I haven't covered even a single one up until this point, because it is one of my all-time favourite types of movies, and that is shark movies. I completely forgot just how much I enjoy shark movies, mainly because they just kind of lost the plot and entered that like, ooh look, big shark, pretty scary, right, type of mindset that never really meshed well with me, and they all just started to get very goofy, so I just eventually stopped watching them. But that was until I saw the movie that we are going to be covering today, called Thrash. Not trash as in garbage, my accent just doesn't allow me to say my THs, so what I mean is Thrash. And this is a new movie that came out on Netflix, and I'm not gonna lie, when I initially started watching this movie, it wasn't because I thought it looked good, it was because it looked like ass and I wanted to laugh at it. And I bring that up because it genuinely pleasantly surprised me, I'm shocked to say. It's a solid movie, like there's a lot of stuff that, you know, might not be scientifically possible and shit, but who cares? Now without further ado, let's sit down and watch people get nom-nommed by the king of the ocean together. Yay! The movie begins in a coastal town called Annieville in South Carolina, and the first thing we hear is a newswoman talking about a huge storm that is on the way called Storm Henry, which is a very misleading name when we see just how much of a punch this thing packs. Now, like a lot of modern day movies, this movie centers around two separate groups of survivors, and the movie cuts and changes between them at an alarming rate, if I'm honest. But in the defense of the movie, it is because these things are happening simultaneously, but that would be very annoying to watch in a YouTube video. So I'm going to focus on each of the groups singularly. I'm going to focus on one group first and then we'll focus on the next one. Good God. For some reason, these two groups never come into contact, even in passing. So I don't know why we followed two people, to be honest. But first, we have the build-up. The first character that we get introduced to is this woman right here called Dakota. We see her trying to order some food when she gets devastating news from the phone man, because he lets her know that there is no deliveries happening today because of the storm. And he tells her that they are open right now if she wants to walk down and get the food herself in person. And now, to most people, that wouldn't really seem like much of a big deal, but as we will soon learn, for Dakota, it is life or death. And that is because she suffers from crippling anxiety due to the death of her mother. And we learn this when she eventually works up the courage to go for that walk and is quickly stopped by her neighbour, who tells her that she shouldn't be out right now due to the storm, and then starts talking about her mother, which sends her into a full-blown panic attack. So much to the point that she runs home and then just slumps over in the fetal position at her door. And she is also foodless, if I may add. And Dakota is part of the first group, which I'm gonna call Codename Waterbreak, and you'll soon see why. The next member of Codename Waterbreak is this woman right here named Lisa. Lisa is a pregnant woman who got stuck in town because she needed to go in for work. As Lisa is leaving work, she gets stopped by a truck driver, and this truck driver is delivering a cargo of meat, and that will become very crucial later on. When Lisa spots him, she stops to have a bit of a chat with him, but after this chat, Lisa is driving through town and she gets a phone call from her mother. And she also keeps asking her if she has considered a water birth like her sister did. For those who don't know, a water birth is when you pretty much give birth in a pool and the baby comes out into the water, just so everybody's on the same page here. Lisa is against the water birth, but before she can even, carry on her conversation, the mother notices that she is still in town and gets a bit worried. Lisa explains that she had to be in for work and she's about to head home now, but her mother hits her with the harsh reality that the road that she needed to get out of said town is closed due to flooding. So she is pretty much stuck there, and her mother tells her that she needs to go to a higher ground. So that's the introduction to that group. Now we move on to the second group. These three foster kids who are diving into what is later described as a swamp. Ew. The trio consists of Ron, who is the oldest, the middle child Dee, and the youngest child Will, who I'm only now realising is a boy. I watched this movie twice, by the way. I feel bad. The tomfoolerish trio fun is soon put to an end when their foster dad shows up and screams at them saying that they should not be jumping into that water because it is riddled with snakes. Now, the way I described it made him seem like a decent human.
What the hell y'all think you're doing? Get on down from up there, you little bastards! Who do you think's picking up the goddamn doctor's bill?
Yeah, as you can see, he's a cunt. If that's not enough to convince you, as the movie goes on, we find out that him and his wife only took these kids in for the monthly foster payment that they get for it. And that's nothing outrageous, people do that normally. I even knew people that done that, but the people I knew that did that actually fed their children. And in this movie, this man does not. He uses the payment that he gets every month for these kids to buy him and his wife fucking fancy Wagyu steaks and a load of other meats, while telling them that they are too poor to afford anything and just feeding them plain bread. So yeah, scum of the earth. While the dad is driving them home, we hear over the radio that there is an evacuation warning set for everyone in the town, and as they are driving through the town, the kids look out the window to see everybody else packing up to leave. The kids ask if they should be leaving or if they should even be worried, and he says no because it's nothing but a little bit of weather, and goes on to brag about his backup power generator and his reinforced windows that he implemented himself, which we'll later see does jack shit. Oh, and his name is Mr. Olsen, by the way. Now, for our final introduction before shit hits the fan, we have this man here called Dale. Dale is actually the uncle of Dakota. We first see him coming in on a boat and pulling up to the pier, and we learn that he is a marine biologist that specializes in sharks. And the first thing he says when he gets off of said boat is that fish and the bull sharks are all trying to escape the storm. His co-worker also says this about Storm Henry.
If they ever considered creating a Category 6, this would be it. Henry.
What'd you call it?
Ted Bundy?
I don't know, I thought it was kind of funny. Now, you might be asking yourself, why don't they just leave like the warnings tell them to? And that is because they are desensitized to it. We see that with both Mr. Olsen and with Dakota, who when her uncle calls her to ask if he needs to come and pick her up, she pretty much just brushes it off and says that it's only going to be some heavy rain. And this reaction is due to the amount of times that the news broadcast has gotten the weather wrong and pretty much just misinformed people. And to their credit, they were in fact wrong. Not about the weather, they hit the nail on the head with that, but because the report did not say high-speed winds with heavy torrential rain with a high likelihood of getting ripped apart by sharks in front of your local GameStop. I just want to quickly interrupt to say that if you are enjoying this video so far, thank you for watching this long by the way, make sure to like and subscribe of course, but also there is this brand new thing called the hype button. So if you are enjoying this video and you want it to be pushed out to more people, make sure to go down below and hit that hype button. But now, on with the video. But now that the build up is out of the way, it is time for... We see Lisa at a gas station desperately trying to get in, presumably because she ran out of Zins, before walking back to her car in defeat. She gets a call from her mother asking if she has a plan, but before they could finish their conversation, they rudely get cut off by the weather. She starts having contractions and she turns on some Zen music to calm down, which I sadly do not think is going to help very much because in the very next scene, we see the roofs of buildings getting ripped off like a seal from a Corona bottle, followed by the flood prevention barrier crumbling as a huge wave starts to flood the town. Lisa is none the wiser and is just trying to find her way to safety when she runs into the truck driver from earlier, who tells her that the road is now blocked by a fallen tree. He tells her to turn around, but before he could even finish his sentence, he notices the flood coming their way. He screams at her and tells her to try and force her way past the tree and get to higher ground, and she attempts just that. The truck driver spots a road to higher ground in the direction of the flood, and he must think that he is the main character or something because he steps on it and attempts to outrun the water. And it starts to feel like he might actually make it, but yeah, it doesn't work. The water sends his truck down the street, destroying everything in its path, while Lisa is still struggling to get past the fallen tree, but unfortunately it is too late because the water smashes into her car, sending her on a nice cruise through the streets before a tree branch stabs through her car and traps her in place. The truck driver also has a ticket on this cruise and ends up crashing directly into a statue, splitting the meat tanker in two and filling the water with plenty of shark sustenance. Dakota, who was on the same street, looks out of her window to see a wave speeding towards her, and she makes it upstairs just in time before the water crashes through her living room. We then see two of the boys doing what boys do best, living their best life during hard times. We see them paddling down the streets in a little paddle boat that they have. How cute. When one of the men hears Lisa screaming for help and instantly jumps into action. When he gets to her, he helps calm her down, but soon realizes that he can't break her free by hand. He screams back to his mate to grab some shears from the truck, and he does just that. But just in case you forgot, this is a shark movie. these things never end well, because as he is making his way to his friend, he gets yanked under the water and disappears. The main guy did not see what happened, and he is fully aware that his friend does not have teleportation abilities, so he goes to investigate. But just when he gets close, boom! His mate pops up out of the water, screaming and missing an arm. He obviously tries to help his friend, but the shark obviously has not had his fill yet, because he swiftly gets dragged away into the lurky depths. His mate is obviously baffled in this moment, but luckily Dakota was able to see the outline of the sharks from her window, so she screams out and warns him about the sharks. He tries to make a run for it, but he is in shark territory now, and the shark swiftly shows him that we are no longer the apex predators in this landscape, because he swiftly gets bitten and pinned against Lisa's car as he cries out in pain, and after a stupidly long time, he gets pulled away into the night. And my god, I feel so bad for this guy. And I'm starting to sound like a broken record in all of these movies that I cover, but here's yet another reason why you should never be a good person in these movies. Oh yeah, and the truck driver, I thought he was going to have some sort of, part to play in this, but we see him trying to kick the door open in his truck, and as soon as he steps foot out of there, he gets mauled to death. Motherfucker didn't even have a chance. These sharks are spawn camping here. We then get a quick scene of Dale chilling with his co-workers and looking at the news when he hears about a road near Dakota's place that has been flooded. So he does something that not every human would be able to do. He pulls up a live satellite view of the town and sees that it is completely flooded. And he comes to the conclusion that the barrier must have broken, meaning that the water is going to continue to rise, which is not an ideal situation for Lisa. But to quickly add into this moment, Dale decides to, go and try to help his niece, and to do that he calls up a news team and tells them that if they bring them to the town, he will let them record whatever they fucking please. And that would be gold in real life. What they end up recording would be the most viral thing to ever touch the internet. You'll see later. But back to our gang. A bit of time has passed and Lisa is still crying for help. Dakota tells her that she is calling for help, but Lisa says that they won't make it in time. Lisa then tells her that she is pregnant and she does not want to die before seeing her son's face. Dakota is obviously very reluctant at this point because, seeing two people getting ripped to shreds in front of your house would do that to a person, but she is also a good person, so this ultimatum ends up sending her into a panic attack. But in fairness to her, she eventually gathers her resolve, grabs a knife and... Ooh, not an ideal start. But after she recovers, we get this anxiety-filled journey across some debris, followed by a shot of multiple sharks in the water, which my heart did not appreciate. But she eventually makes it to the car, ends up cutting her free, and they make it back with no issues. But Lisa, the silly dog, instantly leans on her bed and drips all over it. Like, bro, I just saved your arse, and you're here dripping on my bed and making it all moist and shit, and not in the good way. Now, after this scene, we get a shot of Dale and his team making their way to, set sail towards Dakota's house, and he comes to a very shocking realization. He sees that a pregnant great white that they have been tracking for months has somehow made its way into the town. And this shark's name, wait till you hear this, is fucking Nelly. Why is the name so cute? Little Nelly, Nelly, Nelly. Now, for the time being, Lisa and Dakota are basically just getting to know each other, but it soon gets interrupted when they realize that the entire town is coming apart. Dakota is under the illusion that they will be safe in this house, but Lisa breaks the news to her that they eventually will have to leave because the building will either crumble under the weight of another building hitting it, or since the water is still rising, it will eventually fill up the room and drown them. Lisa asks if it is difficult to get to the roof, and when Dakota says no, she tells her the plan. The plan is to put some sort of SOS message on top of the roof, and Dakota does that in record speed, might I add. When she gets back down, Lisa starts having contractions, and she asks Dakota to do her a favor. That favor being something that you would never in a million years want to ask somebody that you quite literally just met for the first time. Lisa asks her to check down yonder, down in between the legs if you will, and get an eyeball measurement of how wide the opening is. And I'm not going to dwell on this scene too much, but it is kind of funny. I thought it was fucking hilarious. But after a plethora of awkwardness, Dakota eventually says that she is 3 to 4 inches wide before asking Lisa if that is good. And she responds by saying it's good as in the baby is coming soon, but not good given the circumstances we are in. Now we quickly cut away from Lisa and Dakota for a moment, and we see that Dale and the gang have taken off on the boat. But we soon cut back to Lisa and the gang, and things are not looking very good because they are now in knee-deep water in their room. And just to add salt to that wound, it seems that Lisa has started to go into labor. Dakota starts to think of a way out of here, and she remembers the boat that the two boys came with. She tries to write off that thought because, you know, that would involve getting in shark-infested waters, but as soon as she sees Lisa begging and pleading with her child to stay in there because it's not safe, she walks over to the window, looks out of it, and simply says, "Fuck it," before getting ready for action. But she uses some knowledge from her uncle. She says that sharks are attracted to vibrations, so she goes around the house and finds anything that vibrates and puts them in plastic bags. She then floats the bags out into the water and has one last look at the picture of her mother before embarking on her mission. Now, not too much happens in this moment. It is a bit anxiety ridden, I'll tell you that, especially like in the way that they did it. But during this long escapade to the boat, there is many times where we see that her plan seems to actually be working. As soon as she sees a bag getting submerged, she knows to change her course a little bit so she doesn't come in contact with them. But in doing so, she accidentally stumbles upon the truck driver's body, who's just chilling there. Like, come on, bro. You can't leave leftovers like that. There are people starving out here. Like, how are you gonna leave a perfectly good body just there to rot away, and you are simultaneously attempting to kill me? Are you not already full? But we then get one of, if not the coolest shot in the entire movie, because while she is literally pissing distance away from the boat, she starts to get circled by the bull sharks. She gets circled for a few seconds before the bull sharks all disperse for an unknown reason. Won't be unknown for long, because while Dakota is wondering if she smells and the sharks don't like her, we get an underwater shot showing the big bad great white, and it looks like it is coming for Dakota, but she just opens her legs and it just peacefully glides under them before we get a top down shot of Dakota shining her flashlight and just seeing the absolute behemoth that she just did the splits on. Look at the size of this cunt, bro. Good God. But Dakota safely makes it to the boat after this experience, and we then see Lisa's point of view, and things do not look very good because the bed has started to float with the rising water, and it keeps rising until Lisa barely has any room to breathe, all the while she is literally about to give birth. And while she is in this dire situation, she puts on her, pregnancy playlist, as she calls it, and she plays a song that would 100% calm any human that ever hears it. Making my way downtown, na 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 na. But it's kind of funny because after all of these tense moments, this soundtrack plays for a good bit of time. But the song is not God, and it is not going to cure the situation because Lisa lets out a very agonizing scream before the entire house crumbles to the ground. But this is where we are going to leave Lisa and Dakota for now, because now I want to talk about Group B, which is not going to take nearly as long to talk about because even the movie treats these characters as like a second B plot type of thing. And we'll start at the same place, the initial flooding. The family are all gathered in the sitting room when the flood starts. The kids and the mother try to get Dale's attention, who is, being a real man and sleeping with his hat over his face. And when they keep calling to him, he has had enough and jumps up and screams at them saying that for fuck's sake, I'm not gonna tell you again, it is just weather. But the weather does not take disrespect lightly because before he even finished that sentence, it bursts through the window and completely floods the sitting room. And those were the reinforced windows, by the way. They're a bit baffled and have no idea what to do, but that's when Ron comes up with a great idea. He reminds Mr. Olsen that he attached a snorkel to his car, so it should be able to work in this condition, and this causes him and his wife to both go out to the garage where the car is, and in a perfect world, they would just grab it and drive off. But unfortunately, this is not a perfect world. The kids have to stay behind and they are watching from the window, and while they are watching, watching, they get jump scared by a sharky boy swimming past the window. And as soon as Mr. Olsen goes to open the door to the car, his hand gets snatched and bitten off by one of the sharks. And while he is dealing with the pain of his injury, his wife is in an equally devastating situation because she gets bitten and dragged away off screen. Mr. Olsen runs out to search for his wife to no avail, and he then shares a long dramatic stare with the kids. And in that moment, he is choosing whether to go in and save the kids or to get into the car and drive away by himself and leave them. And judging by his character that I have explained to you so far, I'm pretty sure you can guess what he chooses. He instantly runs back into the garage and tries to hop into his car, but the shark does not like this deadbeat father attitude. And just before he makes it in, he gets nabbed and accidentally turns on the radio, so we get a nice little soundtrack to him being dragged away to his demise. And this is followed up by Dee asking if they need to find new foster parents again, before Miss Olsen jump scares the kids by slamming into the window and asking them for help, before getting dragged away by one of the sharks. But when we cut back and see the kids, they are perched on top of the dining table, and Ron realizes that they need to close the door so they can, get a better grasp on the situation, and to, stop the sharks from entering. And Dee is the one who does it. She makes her way across all the countertops and reaches over to close the door. She instantly starts to close the door, but the shark has other ideas, because while she is closing it, the shark knocks it open with his snout and swims into the room, and we get this nice overhead shot of the shark underneath her, and she's just left dangling for her fucking life. She starts panicking because she knows she's about to fall, and Ron runs to her rescue, and just as she slips, he grabs her and pulls her back onto the counter. And now, again, a little bit later, the room is infested with 3 separate sharks. Ron tries to come up with an idea of what to do, so he comes up with a plan to swim down to the basement, grab some of the meat that is down there, distract the sharks with the meat to give them enough time to get outside and to get onto the roof. And for some reason, Will tells them that, oh, we're not allowed down there. Mr. Olsen said that we're not. Before Ron tells him that the Olsens are dead now, so we have to fend for ourselves. And they follow that up by saying fuck Mr. Olsen over and over and over again at the top of their lungs. And this man must be like a genie or something, rub 3 times and he will fucking show up, because he springs out of the water screaming at the top of his lungs and talking about how he lost a hand and a foot. And while they are sitting there in contemplation, Ron decides to press him about the fact that he tried to leave them. He tries to bullshit his way out of it and say, no, I was going to get help, before saying that that is exactly what they need to do for him now. The kids are shocked and ask him if they really expect them to go out into the shark infested waters to get him help, and he hits them with the biggest load of bullshit ever. He says that no, sharks don't like kids, they think they taste funny, so you will be okay. Okay, but while they are arguing about this, Dee finds a letter on the table and decides to open it up. This letter being the check from the foster service showing that they paid them $1,500, and this sends the guys into a frenzy. Ron presses him over this, saying this is how much they were paying you when you were giving us plain bread. He tries to say that it wasn't like that, and this is when Ron has had enough of his bullshit and actually fully stands up to him and screams at him that in case you did not notice, everything is flooded, there are sharks everywhere, there are no fucking people around. Mr. Olsen screams at him and says to not get lippy with him because he has still one good hand that he is not afraid to hit him with, and he soon follows it up by sticking to his word and throwing a punch at Ron, but he easily catches it. They have a bit of a tug of war struggle, but like kind of the opposite, they're like pushing towards each other instead of away from each other, until Dee comes out of nowhere with the clutch, kicking him square in the jaw, sending him tumbling into the water. And when he stands up, his first idea is to not jump back onto the table or anywhere that is above water. His first thought is to call Dee a little bitch before the shark grabs him by the balls and they rip him apart in the water. Ron then uses Mr. Olsen's honorable sacrifice as the distraction he needs to go down to the basement. He swims down, he grabs the meat, and then he tries to grab a gun, but it is locked in place and he can't get it out. And when he turns to swim away, his sweater gets caught on something, which is terrible timing because a shark swims down after after him as this happens. Ron knocks down a paint tin that successfully distracts the shark, and he unsnags himself while grabbing a black box of something on his way out. He swims back up to the surface and the shark follows scarily close behind. He jumps back onto the table with his siblings and the shark follows suit, nearly nibbling his tootsies off. He lets them know that he wasn't able to grab a gun, so whatever is in this box will be their saving grace, hopefully. When they open the box, they see that they were graced with dynamite, of all things. And they have the reaction that I'm sure you would have in this situation. They were gleeful, to say the least. So the gang's plan is to tie some dynamite to the meat, throw it into the water, and then when all the sharks come together to eat it, boom, they blow up. And they start their plan. They throw the dynamite with the food into the water and nothing happens. Not a single shark even attempts to go that direction. But it's here that Will tells the others that he saw on Shark Week that sharks are attracted to vibrations, so all three of them decide to hop into the water and splash around like madmen to attract the sharks. And it works. The sharks start swimming towards them and Will and Dee make it back to the table, whereas Ron gets stuck because his jumper got snagged again. Burn that fucking thing. He manages to unhook himself, but the shark is dead on in front of him. But luckily for us, Ron is the reincarnation of Muhammad Ali, because as soon as the shark jumps up to attack him, he just easily slips out of the way of that thing and makes his way behind the table with the other two, before Dee says one heck of a one-liner.
I will. Bet you never saw this on Shark Week.
And then boom! It's raining sharks. They successfully save the day and they hop into the car and mosey on their way home. Or, well, they actually don't have a home anymore, but Ron says that they're gonna go to Florida. And that is the end of the foster kids story. As I mentioned, they do not interlink at all. I have no idea what correlation these two have, but it is what it is. Now we are at the grand finale. We cut back to Lisa and the gang and we see that the house is completely destroyed. But luckily, fucking Lisa is built like Iron Man and she manages to swim out. She sits there for a second, then starts splashing around in the water while repeating, "Where are you?" And me being me, I was confused as to what the fuck she was looking for. But then she pulls out a newborn from the depths. She uses some debris to cut the umbilical cord and she swims towards a bit of driftwood and places her child on top of it. But as you would expect, due to the high volume of blood leaking into the water, the sharks are interested and they all start circling her, and she even has one of her own badass lines.
Mommy's here. Mommy's just gotta fight some fucking sharks.
The child is only out of the womb literally 20 seconds and already heard its first curse word. Terrible parenthood. But she was not joking in the slightest, because she uses her mother's strength to absolutely uppercut this shark into next week, sending it flying. Well, I think she used like a bit of debris or something, but still, that was impressive. And to anyone who's like, oh, that's so unrealistic, blah, 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 have you not seen the woman who lifted a whole car off of her child's fucking head? Watch that clip and then come back and tell me that that's bullshit. And during this whole thing, Dakota is in the distance, swiftly paddling her way towards her, and during her venture, she found a harpoon gun of all things, or a spear gun I guess it's called, and I bring that up because it comes in very handy right now, because while she is holding her child, there is a sneaky little shark boy coming up behind her. Dakota notices this and instantly gets into position, and it's a nice little callback to an earlier moment in the movie, but earlier in the movie she was watching some home videos with her and her mother, and in the video the mother is teaching her the best way to aim a gun. Well, in this case it was like a fucking Nerf gun or something, and that's exactly what Dakota does in this situation. As the shark gets closer to Lisa, it leaps out of the water to do the finishing blow, and Dakota takes it out with pinpoint accuracy. After this moment, we see that Dale is nearby and speeding his way towards the gang. But he is not there yet, and Dakota pulls up to Lisa. Lisa hands her the kid first, and then Dakota goes to pull up Lisa onto the boat. But these sharks are a little bit rambunctious, because as she is doing so, the shark tips over the boat, sending everyone back into the water. They start getting circled, and it genuinely seems like it might be the end here. I thought it was going to be one of those bad endings, but luckily Dale pulls up just in time and throws a stun gun in between the sharks in the water to make them disperse and run away. Apparently they are very sensitive to like electromagnetic fields, and it actually works, but he did not take into account that one of them is suffering from main character syndrome, because he did not give a single fuck about the taser in the water and starts swimming towards the gang. Lisa, Dakota, Dakota and the baby all huddle together and just accept their fate at this point. But just as the shark gets close, boom! The pregnant great white comes to save the day, absolutely demolishing this little bull shark, before swimming off into the night and enjoying her munch. And it is soon followed by Dale, the shark expert may I add, standing there in shock before saying, "Holy fucking shit." And I really like that scene, because it kind of showed like some sort of motherly bond. I don't know if that's what the movie was going for, but like the entire time it was made out that this shark, the great white shark, was going to be the threat. But every time that we do see the great white shark, it's just chilling. We don't see it attack anybody, we don't see it even attempt to attack anybody. But in this moment, when a mother and her child are about to be devoured, she then decides to attack and save the mother and her child. I genuinely think that there was some sort of motherly link there. Like the shark was able to tell that the mother was trying to protect her young, and in a very weird roundabout way, this soon to be mother great white related to that, and that is why she saved her. Because after killing the shark, she doesn't even attempt to turn back around and attack anyone else. But Dale grabs the survivors and puts them onto the boat before sharing a nice, cute, wholesome hug with his niece. And while they're driving away into the sunset, her and Lisa share one last look and a giant smile together as they drive away into the sunrise. The end. Psych! We get a nice little mini post-credit scene. One of Dale's co-workers is at work and he gets a notification on his screen that makes his jaw drop. And when we cut to see the screen, we see that a giant tornado has started to form. Or at least that's what I'm assuming this thing is. And it ends with him saying, "Holy fucking shit," before it cuts to black. And that is the end. Now, this movie might not be perfect. It might not be the best fucking shark movie ever created or anything like that. But I think it does a lot of things right. But the main thing that I think it done really well is how little it showed the sharks. Because that's one of the things people praise about the original Jaws movies. And a lot of even horror movies in general, they love when the creature or the shark in this situation is not shown so much, because like your imagination would make whatever you can't see scarier than anything that the creator could actually show you. But that doesn't mean at all. That's why I think that this movie done it really well, because a lot of the times we do get to see the shark, but what I'm trying to say is the glimpses of these sharks, like the distorted glimpses, like when you see the shadow in the water, I think that really adds to it, because yes, you are technically seeing it, but it's still like not a clear view. Usually the great white is the big bad in these shark movies, so I feel like they played with that in this movie, because when the great white gets introduced, everybody is fucking like, oh, shit's about to get loose, you know, shit's about to go down. And even me, like every time I saw the great white on screen, I was bricking it. And obviously your preconceived notions from other movies all lead towards Nellie being the big bad, only for it to come back around and her actually be the one to save the main crew. And I like that, you know, they gave the great white its flowers. It isn't long. I would highly recommend just like putting it on with some friends or something like that and just kind of try to theorize how you would get out of the situation yourself. But at the same time, the characters in this movie were smart. They didn't do anything that was fucking outrageous just to, you know, push the plot along or anything like that. Before I end this video out, I want to talk about the ending for a second, because as I said, I am under the impression that this is a fucking tornado. And if that's the case, is this movie a prequel to Sharknado? Because if that's the case, I'm very sad. But now is the time to shout out the people that guessed that I was making a video on this movie. And I thought I made it hard this time, but you guys must be hacking, because a lot of you got it right. And within the first 15 minutes at that. First up we have Emperor Pal Pal, Zachstract, Studious Individual, Tiddles, D's Nuts, and Half Squat. Thank you all for participating, and maybe next time turn your hacks off, please. And if you want to be featured in the next video, keep an eye on the community posts, because I post clues on there for people to guess what my next video is going to be about. But with that said, roll the outro. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. I had a lot of fun making it, and I really hope you guys enjoyed as well. If you like my face and you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. Plenty different movie commentaries, show commentaries of all different shapes and sizes. And we recently hit 8K, so I appreciate that. Thank you all for the support. But yeah, with that all said, folks, it's been EXO, and I'll talk to you all later. Have a good one, folks.